And welcome to another edition of On the Hash with Hatfield right here on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're glad you are tuned in with us wherever you are tuned in with us, whether it be through our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel as well as on Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, Twitter, X at Hatfield Sports, Instagram at Hatfield Sports 2K4, VirginiaPreps.com, or even tuning in be it live or archived through Apple and Spotify. Thank you all for interacting with us each and every week. It's Halloween. I didn't wear my mask, although I do have some type of mini disguise maybe later in the show I will bring out for you. We got a couple of special guest interviews. We've got Justin Vias, the athletic director of the Hampton Crabbers, who will be stopping by to talk about tonight's big event. Hampton does it right. They have a lot of things over there that they do right. They have the past. They had the Crabberween years ago with the late, great Danny Mitchell for baseball that did some things with canned goods for the needy. And then they have a big Hampton High Hall of Fame recognition ceremony at halftime this evening at Darling is Mike Smith, the longtime Crabbers coach, who's got 500-plus wins, 12 state titles, is going to go in their Hall of Fame. They'll have the formal ceremony in the spring, so Justin will stop by and chat about that. Big game, too, with the Crabbers and the Bruins both trying to help their seeding for the postseason. Hampton in Region 4A, while the Bruins are in Region 5B. But let's get to it right here, folks. A lot going on in the world of high school football. And there's a lot of rumors that are speculation out there. We're not going to delve into that today. Maybe that's next week. We'll see. I've heard some things that are true, not true with that. More will be coming out, I'm sure, on that front. That's involving a school from Northern Virginia, but we'll leave that alone for right now at this particular juncture on Halloween morning as we talk to you all out there. Let's go through the latest power ratings, and we'll do it from the smaller school levels to the upper schools, the lower classifications to higher. So we're talking about Class 1 up. And we'll go through these kind of rapid fire style before we hear from Justin Vias. And also our conversation, if you missed it from last weekend, 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV with yours truly and the coach Ed Young as we interviewed Warwick head football coach Corey Hairston. You see Rappahannock is in the catbird seat, as they call it. They're the top seed in Region 1A. They could very well run into Essex again, the region championship. Essex has pretty much got a stranglehold. Look out for little Northampton over there. They're going to get the 3 seed. It does look like Westmoreland got themselves a big win over Northumberland, who is sliding right now. And then you see below them Middlesex, West Point, King and Queen. Interesting story there with King and Queen just a couple years ago, removed from an 8-9 win season and then really not having the type of years that they were hoping for. But I think your favorites, clearly Rappahannock and Essex, going to probably see each other again in the region championship come Thanksgiving weekend. Alta Vista is just rolling through 1B, which I do believe they're going to take 6, which they've done the last couple of years, just like they're taking 6 this particular year for what is Region 4A this year after the debacle with the Phoebus Jamestown score from last season. Alta Vista, we have a number 1 in the state on Virginia Preps in our rankings. LaDainian Stone, 4,000-plus yards in his career and counting. He is the man running the rock for them. Brunswick-Buffalo Gap could be interesting. Sussex Central had a coaching change in the offseason, not the same team they were a year ago. So it's Alta Vista's regions to lose, and I think the rest is just, for decoration, if you will. I don't know if there's a better phrase to put it than that. But 1C, Bath County is the top seed. They're not the favorite in my eyes. It's Georgia Wythe, which is just a couple seasons removed from the state championship game. If you recall, they lost the state championship game 2 years ago to Riverheads, if I recall right. And here they are looking like a team that can maybe win this thing, even with the 2 losses and not being the 1C, which Bath County has the hold on. Watch out for Grayson County. They've played a good schedule. They're battle-tested with the Goad brothers. There's like 3 Goads, Matt Goad, Maverick Goad. I forget the other Goad's first name. They're not shabby either. Galax is the perplexing one. They're actually forfeiting a game to Fort Chiswell. We've learned from our reporter at Virginia Preps, Rodney Young, this week. And it does appear that, in fact, Galax, which won a state championship a year ago, might very well go winless this year. And the same could happen in Class 6 with Freedom of Woodbridge. Hard to fathom that not 1 but 2 state championship teams could have that happen this particular year. Let's go over to 1D. We've got Rye Cove, only unbeaten there. They're a pretty heavy favorite in our eyes to get the not just the 1 seed, but win this region, although this region's got more competitiveness to it. Watch out for the Music brothers. Peyton Music, his brother Avery, they're putting up big numbers throwing the football. They're a live dark horse as like a 4 seed there. Holston and Eastside look like they're going to battle each other to the end here for the 2 and 3 seeds. Holston got themselves a good win over an out-of-state opponent last week as well. So that's what it looks like in Class 1. We'll go to Class 2 and Class 3, and then we'll unveil our Chicho's Pizza 757 Football Player of the Week and Il Giardino Coach of the Week, and we'll do the 4, 5, and 6 later on in the program after the 2 interviews and give you some thoughts on the matchups this weekend in high school football, specifically in Hampton Roads. There's some big games this weekend, folks. You got Phoebus and Warwick at Darling. You got a couple big ones in Richmond, too, with Thomas Jefferson of Richmond and Armstrong squaring off, as well as Highland Springs and Verona. Big rivalry game there. Pecoson's the number 1 seed. Bruton, they play each other on Friday night. That's a key battle. What a year Bruton is having. Pecoson has the leg up, though. They win this game. They're the 1 seed no matter what happens the final week of the season. Southampton is solidly in as the 3 seed. A Bruton loss can move Southampton up to the 2 and drop Bruton to the 3. Very good chance that happens. Central Lunenburg looking like they're probably locked into that 4-5 game where they should see Greensville, might see Amelia. And then you've got Nottoway and King William. King William is not your typical 8 seed, folks. So if Pecoson does have to play them, I think they will hold off John Marshall and Prince Edward below them. The rest of those schools not going to matter in terms of the postseason outlook. Pecoson, King William, they've met a couple of times in region semifinals, region championship games. King William's not that long removed from a state championship when Damon Claiborne was running wild for them. He of Wake Forest Demon Deacons fame. That is a watch out for 8 seed, I'd say, if that does hold. And King William's played a really tough schedule. They've played a lot of schools above them in the Class 3 and 4 ranks. And, in fact, were in our preseason top 10 on Virginia Prep. So they're not your ordinary record and low seed. Take them seriously. Clark County is legit. They won a tough one with Strasburg, who they could run into again, possibly in the region semifinals. Strasburg's in that 4-5 game with Stewart's Draft. Buckingham's unbeaten. Good chance they close out 10-0, but won't even get the 1 or 2 seed, it looks like. Even though Riverhead's had that loss to Stewart's Draft, they're holding on by a thread over Buckingham. It could be razor close to the very end with that. But that is intriguing on a lot of levels from the perspective of the 2 and 3 seed, because you say that matters. Second round, who's hosting? Big deal there. Central Woodstock had the forfeits, and it has done them a lot of damage because now they're in peril. They are the 8 seed. I think they will hold off Page County for that, but it looks like it's going to give them a tough draw in the first round where they might have to play Clark County. So you talk about Clark County and Pecoson being 1 seeds in 2A and 2B. Central Woodstock and King William, teams that have been in the state championship games in the last 4 or 5 years, are not your ordinary seeds, and their records are deceiving because of who they played in the case of King William, and because of the forfeits. They really have a better record if you don't have those forfeits. In Central Woodstock's case, they would be up on that probably 4 or 5 line at the very least, you would think. 2C, let's go to that for a second here. Glenver, they had the 1 loss to Allegheny, but they look like the real strong favorite in this region. They did lose by a lopsided margin, did Radford to Glenver, so I don't know that Radford's made up the ground. I think a year from now they could, the defending champ in Class 2, which last year had the dazzling Landon Clark and Max Kanepi catching the ball and had a lot of weapons and firepower. Gretna as a 3 seed, look out for them. They're nipping at Radford's heels. So you got Floyd, Nelson County. Appomattox used to be a real heavyweight. They're not having their type of year that they're used to. Have played a little bit better in recent weeks. And then below that, it's going to be a real crapshoot to see who gets that 7-8 seed. But it does look like Appomattox is probably going to be on that 6 or 7 line with Martinsville right there nipping at their heels. Go to 2D for a second now. We look at Graham, the G-men. Their defense has been just balling out. Had 11 sacks a couple weeks ago against Lebanon. I think we're going to get a Graham Union rematch in the Region 2D final. They played earlier this season in what was a whale of a ball game. Graham had to complete a long 3rd and long pass around the red zone area to keep a drive alive as they rallied to win that one out there in Big Stone Gap. Ridgeview, they've got a good quarterback in Ryan O'Quinn. Lebanon, Virginia High, Gate City Lee Tazewell. I think the 4-5 game will be your most interesting game if you get a Lebanon, Virginia High, and that holds. Still a couple more weeks to go to determine the seeding there. Move it up to 3A. Lafayette's got the 1 seed. No matter what happens these last 2 games, including the regular season finale against Pecoson, who played them close a year ago, and they're trying to go 10-0 and make some history. Rams went to the state championship a year ago. They got a good path here to get out of 3A because All the rest of the teams are 500 or below. That's right. Everybody else besides Lafayette there is 500 or below in 3A. Now, Norcom, they have Lake Taylor this weekend. They can get above 500. They can secure the 2 seed by winning out. Hopewell's had some injuries. They had some rough situation with a death before the season as well. Blue Devils playing in that tough Central District, so they got to feel like they are probably on a collision course to see Norcom in the second round there. And then it's the jockeying for those last couple seeds because everybody's jumbled up and bumbled up. Bumbled up, I said. Lake Taylor's still holding out hope that they can squeeze in, possibly even at 3 and 7. York has been sputtering as of late. Lakeland playing in that Southeastern District. They haven't got any district wins, and they're just trying to hang on and get in there. Those lower seeds, not as dangerous as a year ago, where Heritage of Newport News pulled the upset in the second round of Hopewell and made it to the region final. I think we're looking at a Lafayette, Norcom, Lafayette, Hopewell region final, and not a lot of drama and excitement, sadly, unfortunately, in Class 3. I think it's pretty much ho-hum, yawn your way through if you're Andy Lynn and the Rams. And then the state semis will be fascinating if you get through that and you see Kettle Run, if you see Thomas Jefferson of Richmond, or you see Armstrong. Now, Kettle Run is sitting in the driver's seat, but a TJ win over Armstrong can really vault them. Kettle Run, the last 2 games for them to close out the season, for those that are wondering, because we mentioned TJ and Armstrong, they got a tough one here. Kettle Run, if you recall, last year lost to Brentsville District, regular season finale, then lost to them in the second round of the playoffs. They got Brentsville District to close up the season after they play Fauquier this weekend. But I don't see them being threatened by either. You see Brentsville's at 4-4, Fauquier at 2-6. Kettle Run should get to 10-0. We'll see if TJ and Armstrong do meet again because there's a very good chance that does occur. And in your 8th seed, it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably James Monroe, Fauquier, Warren County battling to the end there. Meridian's keeping some hope alive too for that. Go into 3C, Liberty Christian. The heavyweight there, they're getting the 1 seed unless they slip on the banana peel and get beat here to close it out. Turner Ashby trying to get to 10-0, had a really good team coming back, and they're dangerous. Heritage of Lynchburg, if they do get the 4 seed like we're showing they probably will, probably going to go 9-1, 8-2. They will be a tricky second-round draw potentially for Liberty Christian because they gave Liberty Christian their toughest battle this season. They played back in, I think it was late September, if I recall right. And that was a game that Liberty Christian did not just blow them out. It went down to the wire, essentially, only a 34-27 game back on September 26th. So that is one to keep an eye on if they get them in the second round. There are some teams, lower seeds. We dismissed a lot of your Class 2 and other Class 3 lower seeds. I would not totally dismiss a Rustburg if they dropped to like a 6 line, Stanton, Western Wilson Memorial, Monticello, Spotswood. You could have a 6, 7, 8 seed with 7 wins, which is good to see. You got some quality and some depth in that region. Problem is Liberty Christian's just been a machine lately, and I don't know if anybody has the defensive personnel, the components to slow down that running game led by Gideon Davidson and that offensive line with those hulking blockers like Easton Wares going to Clemson, among others. And to close out this first portion of our power ratings breakdown with 2 weeks to go, 3D. And I'm really curious to see what transpires here in 3D these last couple of weeks. Now, remember, Magna Vista was one of our preseason picks a year ago to win the state championship. We had them high this year, like 2 or 3, if I recall. Took an early loss to Stanton River, got it rolling, lost to GW Danville 42-36. They've got Halifax and Mecklenburg to close, so you like their chances to possibly improve the seeding. Laura Botetourt, like Magna Vista, lost its first game of the year. They were beaten in game 1, 11-8 in overtime by EC Glass. Then from there, they reeled off 6 straight wins, including beating William Byrd, who they could run into again, just lost to William Fleming. They should get by, they believe, Northside and Franklin County, so they can help their seeding situation. As for Abingdon, now that Mountain 7 district, where you have a lot of schools in that Mountain 7 that are from Class 2, you have your Union, you have your Ridgeview, you have others that are in that smaller classification. Abingdon's having a heck of a year. Their defense has really carried them as of late, including in that recent 10-7 escape against Ridgeview. Had a shutout the week before that against Marion. They've got Union coming up at Bullitt Park. Not an easy game. Then Lehigh, who they should beat. So they lose that one. Abingdon can certainly fall from the 1 line to possibly even the 3 line. You're not going to get a ton of points from Lehigh. So the seeding's still sorting itself out there at the top there. Keep an eye on Christiansburg. They're just a couple years removed from a region championship. Carroll County's no walkover cupcake either. There's some quality there. And even your Stanton River, who's beaten Magna Vista, we mentioned, and Northside are live teams if they're in the 7 or 8 line for the postseason. So there you have it. That's what it looks like for classes 1, 2, and 3. We will do 6, 5, and 4 later on in the show, closer to the maybe about top of the hour. Oh, yeah, about top of the hour, because coming up next, though, we're going to hear from Justin Vias. He's the athletic director of the Hampton Crabbers to talk about the Hall of Fame recognition coming up tonight, Thursday night, for Mike Smith, the longtime Crabbers coach. You see it on the screen there. That's coming up. But before we get to that, as I teased earlier, it is time now for our 757 Chicho's Player of the Week, and that is none other than Saeed Williams Jr. Congratulations to the Warwick High Trigger Man from Newport News. What a game Saeed had just this past week as the Raiders blanked the Crabbers 49-0. He accounted for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4 LeBron James, but 7 touchdowns he had in that win over Hampton. In fact, Saeed had 4 through the air in that ball game. He had 3 via the ground, and he has been humming all year long. 1,181 yards passing, I think it is, a 19-2 TD-INT ratio, and 11 TD runs. So he's accounted for 30 scores as Warwick gets ready to take on the Phoebus Phantoms. And now, what about our Il Giardino, I should say, Coach of the Week, 757 style. For that, we turn our attention to the Oscar Smith Tigers and their head football coach. That is Chris Scott. He is our coach of the week. I'm sure Coach Scott, knowing him quite well, will hand this over to his assistants that have been helping lead the ship with him all year long, like LaFonte Thurgood and Giovanni Simmons, Eli Harold, some former Ocean Lake standouts, and Eli's case, former NFL player, among so many other assistant coaches, because it is a group effort. But Coach Scott, what has he done since he's come to Oscar Smith? Big shoes to fill. When you talk about some legends like the late, great Bill D and Rich Morgan, who's down in Marietta, Georgia, and what he accomplished with a couple of state titles. Well, Coach Scott has won himself a couple of state championships as well. He is now 60-9 overall at the helm of Oscar Smith, and they halted Kings Fork's 16-game Southeastern District regular season winning streak with a 27-12 victory last Friday night at Beard DeLong Easley Field. In that ball game, over 200 yards of offense in the first quarter. Negative yards, in fact, for Kings Fork in the opening period as they bolted to a quick 21-point lead. So there you have it. Congrats to the Il Giardino Coach of the Week, Oscar Smith's Chris Scott. A lot of good candidates. Corey Hairston's doing a heck of a job at Warwick. You'll hear from him later in the show. Tyler Noe at Cox is doing a marvelous job, and they have a chance to get the 2 seed in Region 5A, and so many other quality coaches around the state we know about. Obviously, Jeremy Blunt's defending state champs at Phoebus, Taree McCain's defending state champs at Maury, among many others. Unbeaten's going head-to-head this week, like Pocosin and Brute with Elliott Duty, who got this award just recently. And we've had on the show, of course, from the Bruton Panthers, Barrington Morrison, what he's done. Andy Lynn has led Lafayette to state finals. So a lot of good coaches deserving and worthy of getting recognized. All right, timeout. We'll come back with Justin Vias. He is the athletic director of the Hampton Crabbers. Once upon a time was the baseball coach there too. And we will talk with him about what is going on at Darling Stadium this particular evening. But first, let's hear from some of the sponsors that make it possible for us, like Dairy Queen, Grill and Chill with DQ.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there, because here you are more. One Life Fitness.
After more than 50 years of innovation, AstroTurf still leads the way. The inventor of artificial turf does it all, right here in the USA. We engineer, test, manufacture, and install the world's most innovative fibers and turf technologies, with over 30,000 tracks and fields worldwide. AstroTurf, powered by Sport Group.
What's up, at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever! The $7 Bacon Cheeseburger Meal Deal. Bacon cheeseburger for a limited time, plus fries, drink, and a sundae. Yeah, this is not the time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. And there's bacon on that burger. The $7 Bacon Cheeseburger Meal Deal. Now, for a limited time on the $7 Meal Deal lineup. Only at DQ. Happy tastes good.
As a lifelong local, avid waterman, coach at Kellam High School, coach at the Virginia West Soccer Club, also a member at Virginia Beach National and Hanover Ridge Golf Club. The 757 is a great place to live and play. As a seasoned realtor at the Bryan Group, I know I can find you the perfect home.
And we welcome you back to On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we're streaming with you each and every week on Cova Sports TV all over the web, Apple, Spotify, VirginiaPreps.com, Facebook, X or Twitter as they call it, Instagram, and so much more. We always appreciate your feedback and interaction with us. And we have a special guest with us. He is the Athletics Director at Hampton High School. The Storied Crabbers have a big ceremony coming up, as you just saw a moment ago, on Thursday night at Darling Stadium. It is the Hall of Fame recognition. They're going to have their first Hampton High School Athletic Hall of Fame. The formal reception is coming up in the spring, and here to tell us about that and so much more is the AD, Justin Villas. Justin, thanks so much for stopping by. How's life treating you here on the eve of Halloween? And we're getting ready for a big ceremony coming up.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. Everything's going well. Fall's going pretty well. Rolling into winter sports here, but, just taking it a day at a time and getting prepared for tomorrow night.
For sure. Let's talk about that because you got a big football game as well. Hampton's Crabbers at 6-3 overall, Bethel at 5-3. Both teams playing rather well in the peninsula. I know the big headline game for folks is on Saturday with Phoebus and Warwick, but both teams primed for the playoffs, and you're going to be honoring one of the all-time greats. I don't think folks have quite the comprehension unless you bleed that Crabber red and black, just some of the legendary coaches and people that you all have been around at Hampton High School. We'll talk about one that I know is near and dear to your heart and mine, and the late, great Danny Mitchell, Alvis Mann. You've got winning coaches that have won championships here recently, and Eric Brown and Sean DeBailey on the basketball side of things. But Mike Smith, his numbers are just staggering. 506 wins versus 99 losses, 17 state titles his program has won, 12 under his direction. And his playoff record is 79-32, which is hard to fathom. I think it all makes him a natural choice for the first inductee, right?
Yeah, it was a given. I mean, who else to exemplify Crabber Hall of Fame than Coach Smith? 51 years as a head coach, what else can you say? And, we have a lot of people that have coached for a long time at a lot of places, but, just the numbers, 12 state championships, 500 wins, it's mind-blowing of, just the stats and some of the things that, I researched for this ceremony that I didn't even know. The numbers are there, and even, the output is there when we're talking about, kids in college, and not just kids in college, but, successful men that left this program and are a good part of our community.
Certainly to do what he's done is unquestionably at the top if you're doing Mount Rushmore of coaches and his achievements. But for those that have grown up around the program, and you're certainly a former Hampton Crabber that was a standout athlete, what do you think he means to those that have walked the halls, have played for him, and that around the sport? Because I don't know that we'll ever see something like this ever again, because coaches don't stay around these days anymore, 30, 40 years.
Coach Smith is Hampton High School. He bleeds red and white. You don't see him too often without a crab on a piece of his attire. He, exemplified what it meant to be a crabber. He was in the building for so long. A lot of people don't realize he taught and was the dean for most of those years here at Hampton High School. And when people come out to games, Coach still comes to games every week, and, everybody wants to talk to Coach. Great guy. Very, very, very good for our community. And, I'm glad that I was a part of his time here. Even though I didn't play football, I knew Coach very well through Coach Mitchell. So, it's an honor to be able to honor him. And it was one of the first things that was on my plate when I took the AD job is, trying to recognizing those who made Hampton High what Hampton High is.
Well, and having interviewed him enough over the years, I know he's not one that always, needs the limelight or the spotlight. What was his reaction when you informed him that he'd be the first inductee and you all would do it on Halloween night? I'm sure he had a couple of wisecrack jokes, as he always likes to do, I'm sure, with it about, I need to come up in a costume or something along those lines. What was his reaction to it?
It was a big year, you know what I mean? And I did it the right way. I went through, me and Woodrow talk a lot, and, Woodrow and Coach talk often. So, I ran it through Woodrow, and Woodrow talked to him, and, he said he was excited, and to get Coach excited is a great thing. Being around so much winning, this is an accomplishment that I'm glad he's excited about.
And I'm sure there will be other Hall of Fame honorees that you won't give away on this particular episode that folks can stay tuned as they follow your social media channels with Hampton High School Athletics and so on and so forth as we get closer to that spring formal induction. But just the number of players, Coach, I think is it 10 NFL guys that he has coached, from the likes of obviously Ronald Curry, legendary, Tyrod Taylor, Dwight Stevenson, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Daz Newsome. I'm probably leaving out a number of highly regarded players, but just the ones that you think of that have come through the program, it's quite astonishing.
Yeah, one thing, last week when we had homecoming, we had Dwight Stevenson, as the honorary captain. We have a couple NFL Hall of Famers from Hampton High, and Coach Dwight Stevenson. You have Ronald Curry, you have Elton Brown that came through here. You have Robert Banks, Daz, Marcus Hagans had a little stint there, a lot of good guys. But, all these guys that most of them I know personally are even better people than they are athletes. And, that's what we're looking to push.
It's interesting, and I know you know him quite well too. Dwight Vick, who's kin to Michael Vick, he just speaks in such high regard to Mike Smith and what he did for him. The late great Danny Mitchell, Alvis, man, that entire coaching staff, and as I brought up before, it is the number of athletes that have come through all the different programs there at Hampton, not just football, but basketball, baseball. The list goes on and on. You still hear about some of these players that were greats from. They almost get teary-eyed when they talk about it because they just know how special a time it was. Certainly Hampton in the 90s, Phoebus in the 2000s. The football in the peninsula there is quite storied. And what's sort of your favorite memories? I know growing up, you certainly probably look forward to, even though you were the baseball guy, which we'll get to in a second, those Friday night games were always special.
Well, yeah, and I was here, I started coming to Hampton football games in middle school, and that was Ronald Curry's era. So, every game was an experience. It wasn't, you had to get there early. You had to buy your ticket during the school day. It was a big thing to go to a football game. And one thing we have around here is something we call crabber pride. And, everyone that comes through here realizes, it's something different. And we've had teachers come in here that worked at other buildings. And it's just, either we're up or we're down. It's still a positive attitude here, and we still know what we have going for us, and we know what we've done, that we're looking forward to do again. So the kids have something to look forward to, and they have something to measure. I told Vic when I did his podcast not too long ago, those guys made it hard on our football team. It's almost, if it's not a state championship, what did we do? And, we're working back towards that. We're doing pretty good on that rebuild, and, I'm looking forward to the future.
For sure. Woodrow Wilson's got himself a fine football team with Marcus Chapman, your young quarterback, leading the way. I had a chance to see the guys a couple of times. Looking forward to Thursday night as it's going to be the Mike Smith Hall of Fame recognition. He's the first one. They have the formal induction in the spring for the entire class for the 2025. Our guest, Justin Vias, the AD at Hampton High School, once upon a time was a standout player. Let's get to that, Justin. Talk about your background a little bit, because you went on to play college baseball. Was it at Norfolk State? Had a couple other stops, and how you got into coaching, because you did follow the late, great Danny Mitchell, who meant so much to all of us, and he was a character and one of a kind. And then you now are the AD. Tell us about your odyssey and journey and coming back to your alma mater.
Yeah, I was a baseball player. Coming into high school, baseball was my life. I did it, since I could walk, and got to high school and jumped right in. Coach Mitchell tried to push me to play football. My mama wasn't having it. I played a little basketball, some future league stuff, more recreation for me, but, baseball was the way for me to focus on to get into college. So I did go to Norfolk State. After that, had a little stint at the apprentice school, and I finished up at a small D2 down in St. Augustine, and to get into coaching, when I finished at St. Augustine, I coached there for 2 years as an assistant coach, and then just wanted to move back home. One of my first stops was by Coach Mitchell's house, as it was like a second home to me to stop by. And Vias, I need a JV coach. Do you want to do it? And, the rest is from there. I coached with Danny, coached JV for 2 years, and was Danny's assistant for 7 before he untimely passed. And, learned a whole lot from him and wouldn't change anything for the world.
For sure. I'm glad we get to recognize folks like a Coach Smith and some of these coaches. You mentioned Danny Mitchell. Two people that I miss so dearly that were certainly real treasures for us on the reporting side of things, covering it, were a guy like Danny Mitchell and Ben Moore, the late great. You remember him, basketball coach at Warwick and Menchville. They were always so genuine, and you could just see their passion and love for what they did. You got a favorite Danny Mitchell story while we're here right now, Justin, that brings you back to either your play? I'm sure you do as you chuckle there. You probably got a couple that can share, because he loved Friday night football games. He loved seeing us, whether it be me or my pal Lynn Burke, who covered sports for the Daily Press for many years. He always loved to give us a hard time, but he did it in a good-natured, ribbing way.
Well, a couple of my favorites I can't say on share out loud, but Danny was Danny, man. I think breaking it down to one favorite memory would be limiting it. But just, I tell everybody, that saw Danny from the outside, you didn't know Danny Mitchell. And, the nicest guy that you could meet. Now, the facade he had on the outside, you would say, hey, that guy's a jerk. But Danny loved everybody. He loved the kids. He loved Halloween. My favorite Danny Mitchell memories are the ones he wanted to give back. We did the Crabberween game a couple of years with Kickatanna with Bethel, where we dressed up and raised money and cans for the food bank. Danny honored my wife. My wife has lupus, and he comes to me one day and say, Vias, let's do a lupus game. We went and got purple jerseys with crabs on them. The funny thing is, one year we wore them, and talking on Coach Smith, he walks up, he said, dang, you guys were trying to fool him. I thought Menchville was playing Menchville because we had on lupus jerseys that day. When Lee Martin was at Bethel and his wife was going through some stuff with some breast cancer, it was Danny's idea. Hey, we're going to wear pink and we're going to do something for her. So, my biggest memories and best memories are Danny of his giving back. It had nothing to do with athletics, but just wanted to give back to the community. His big thing was, while we're here, we're going to do sports, but I'm going to teach you how to be a man. You know what I mean? And I just want to make sure that when you get into society, you can survive in being a man and do things the right way.
Absolutely. Heart of gold and 100%. Couldn't have said it any better there. Justin Vias, our guest here on The Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel on Cove Sports TV. We've got the Mike Smith Hall of Fame recognition night coming up on Halloween night this Thursday at Darling Stadium. It's at halftime of the Bethel Bruins taking on the Hampton Crabbers in a key matchup in the Peninsula District as the Crabbers try to get themselves a top seed, probably going to be in that 2 seed in Region 4A. Bethel trying to secure a better seed in Region 5B. Certainly a gauntlet there. And going back to Coach Smith here for a second, Justin, as we get ready to wrap it up with you here, and we thank you for coming on. What I love about him all the time, we'd get ready for our season preview, the number of nicknames Coach Smith would have of players, whether it be Jawbone, Lollipop, this guy, just his early bird. The number of nicknames was always tug at the heartstrings. And other coaches now do it. I know there's coaches on the South Side, a couple at Norfolk specifically, like Coach McCain at Morey, Coach Slayer. They'll have nicknames for guys, and it's funny because us in the media love that. It's something we gravitate towards. But you won't see this ever again, what he did. And just one season below 500, it's crazy to think. You're right. 8-2 or 7-3, a lot of programs would love that, but it felt like anytime that would ever happen at Hampton, it'd be the first question of what's wrong, which in a way also is a tip of the hat to their excellence, right?
Yeah, you measure around here with playoff wins. You know what I mean? The regular season is what you do to get to the playoffs, and we're trying to be successful, on that side of the table. And, like you said, more times than not, we were. Like I said, I was doing stuff for tomorrow, and 81 playoff victories for Coach Smith. Some of the numbers are mind-boggling. We actually have something that's not really heard of is 2 national championships in the state of Virginia for high school. And, usually those go to California schools, Texas schools, but we have back-to-back here in the city of Hampton. And like I said, we want to win, and that's our goal, but we also want to raise young men. But also, like you said, the Peninsula District has represented football very well, with Phoebus doing pretty well here over the last 2000s, and Hampton before that. We've got 25, 26 state championships just between two schools in the city of Hampton. And I don't think too many other districts, or, we're just talking about a city, can say that.
Yeah, without a doubt. And another thing, too, I got to give a shout out to those that are certainly involved. You mentioned Lee Martin earlier with Newport News and Todd Stadium. And then now I know Richard Fortune was there with you at Hampton before you took over as AD. And when you were coaching baseball, the new turf fields are outstanding at both Darling and Todd. If folks haven't been out there for a football game, go check it out. It is just awesome. I know it's better for all of you when it comes to bad weather that hits the area, which fortunately, fingers crossed, we haven't had that. But it's really cool. Last couple ones for you, Justin, before we let you run here. Folks wondering, too, like, how do you go about this Hall of Fame process now? Certainly some are from the area, some you have connections to, some, they may or may not be with us anymore. How you go about this process, and then for the spring, what they can find out more with this. And I bet you were probably even thinking as you took over, I didn't know this until it was brought to my attention by the Facebook post, that there was not already a Hampton High Hall of Fame.
No, and, I'll be honest with you, Bethel put a little pressure on us. Daraki, also a crabber over at Bethel, when he did the Bethel Hall of Fame, then the clock started ticking on when we were going to do it. We already had it in the process, but as you said, there's so many. It's a process. It's not nothing that we could just sit here and put names out right now and say, here it is. You know what I mean? And, talking with Dwight and some others, the committee we have formed, because like I told people, it's not me picking people. There's an actual committee of people from all eras that we're going to use to, really justify and identify people that should be in there. But going so long, how do you do it? And I'll be honest with you, we haven't really narrowed down how we can represent everybody. I think we're going to try maybe with decades first, just to get it caught up before we keep going. But it's going to be a process. It's going to be hard. As Dwight Vick called it, it's the impossible task, but we're going to take it on. I think it's something that's needed. When people walk in our building, they see, the history and the heritage that we have here. And the bad part about it is it's probably not even half of it. You know what I mean? So that's my other thing, is trying to share, what the history of Hampton High School is. Sometimes it helps for you when somebody else walks in your gym and sees all that stuff hanging around. We've had 9 Gatorade Player of the Years across all sports here at Hampton High School. So I got the banners remade, and those are going to go up in the gym. Just trying to represent, what Hampton High is. And, we are the oldest building in this on this side of the water. So we're really trying to keep that heritage and keep this building alive, and, keep Hampton High School in everybody's name.
Yeah, certainly some great stories and legacies on the peninsula when you talk about the schools like Bethel and Phoebus and you guys at Hampton. It's just mind-boggling, some of the things that you guys have accomplished in athletics and various sports. We'll get you out on this one. Thank you for coming on. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday night, and also touching base with you down the road. If anybody wants to follow, whether they be old or young, because you got all kinds of fans, and in between, how they can keep up to date with Hampton Athletics, be it through the social pages and what's in store, any way they can get involved as well. What's the best way they can connect?
Yeah, on Facebook, you have Crabber Sports, just typing in Crabber Sports. There's also a personal page for mine. It's Crabber ADVIs. I'm trying to do some little things to show some day-to-day stuff, what happens as an AD, how the building looks and all that stuff. Instagram is also Crabber Sports. And then X, which I've just got on not too long ago, is Sports Crabber, because I think I created a page way back when, and I don't remember the password. I can't get into it, so I had to change the name a little bit. So, yeah, all the updates will be going up there. We've got a couple more here for the winter that are going to slide in that I'll recognize, as winter comes along, and a couple in the spring that I'll recognize. And then, like you said, we'll have a big ceremony, probably early summer instead of late spring. We'll wait till school lets out. Trying to turn it into an event. You know what I mean? I watched Norcom and a couple of Suffolk schools. They have weekends where they celebrate alumni, and that's what we want to try to get to. We have so many alumni. I want to make it an event that, people from out of town are able to come to. So the summer's a little better. Make it a 3-day event. We can have something at the building. We're going to have a formal ceremony for all the inductees, and, maybe just even a little bonfire type block party out here at the school, just so people can reminisce. But, trying to gradually make it bigger and better every year, but we had to start somewhere. And, who else would be better to do it than Coach Smith at a Hampton Bethel game at halftime?
Yeah, it's as good as it gets. He's the dean of coaches with 500-plus wins, 12 state championships, records and numbers that will never be touched. And we like to say in sports, records are made to be broken. I'm not sure his are going to get broken, at least while we're all alive. Should be a lot of fun on Thursday night with the Hampton Crabbers at 6-3, taking on the Bethel Bruins at 5-3 with the Hall of Fame recognition coming up at halftime at Darling Stadium. Justin Vias, the AD over at Hampton High, thank you so much for coming on the program. All the best to you, and we'll talk again down the road.
All right, have a good one. That's
Justin Vias with us here on The Hash with Hatfield. We've got a timeout, some commercials, and bills to pay. We'll come back with our conversation. If you missed it from 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Coach Young and me with Warwick head football coach Corey Hairston to preview the Raiders and Phantoms and give you some thoughts on this weekend's games right here. Keep it tuned to Cova Sports TV.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk.
Usually it's Hatfield. That's why I try to tell everybody, get on Hatfield. He is the legal scribe, the talking head that knows all this, puts the whammies on. We do things different on this podcast. That's why we're rated number 3 in the state.
You got Play-Doh? Get out of here!
We got people all over the globe watching with us. Sitting in a phone booth with you would be very...
we got to have your own phone booth. I'm not sitting in a phone booth with you.
It is 757 Saturday Sports Talk here on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe.
Get ready for the Neptune Bowl presented by Doubletree by Hilton on November 23rd, 2024 at the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. Tailgating starts at 10 a.m. Grab your passes for just $50. Gates open at 12:30 with kickoff at 2 p.m. Advance tickets are only $20 or $25 at the gate on game day. College football only comes to Virginia Beach once a year. Visit beachsportsplex.com to learn more today and secure your spot.
Hampton Crabbers, mighty impressive one, and you got to feel great about how the squad's performing right now.
Yeah, it was a solid win last night. I felt like we did well in all 3 phases: special teams, offense, and defense.
Tell me about this group here. I think we knew about the defense last year, which had that shutout streak of you lost to Phoebus at the end 10-2, but you didn't give up a touchdown until that game. You get to the region championship. You have a season for the ages at Warwick, and you knew a lot of guys are coming back. The unfortunate, tough injury to Masai Dilemma we send our best to, who's going to Maryland, one of the best players in the entire state. And some might have said, all right, Warwick's going to take a step back, but you guys didn't listen to it. You've bought in all the guys, the youngsters that have returned for the squad, and here you are. In some ways, you're putting up better numbers than a season ago. Give me the process of when you have a good year like you did, you're still hungry and you know what you're capable of, but there's also that motivation of, all right, we know there's a little more work to get to that top level. How you guys approach this year, and especially after the tough setback with Messiah.
Well, we really are we're a veteran team. We have a lot of guys who they were freshmen and sophomores playing varsity 2 years ago when we went to the state semifinals. They were starters last year as sophomores and juniors, and now they're juniors and seniors. So we have a lot of veterans who have recorded a lot of quality varsity minutes. Hats off to my coaches. I have a great coaching staff who we all work together and prepare our players week in and week out. Going back to this summer, we did some camps this summer, some team camps this summer, and then our scrimmages against some very, very, very quality opponents in Hayfield and DeMatha. So the preparation that we've put in really have prepared us for the season. Is, for us at Warwick, is job not done. We celebrated last night, but right now we're focusing on our next opponent. But we are quite pleased with what we have. We still got a lot of work to do. We're not quite there yet, but we're working toward it.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm going to let my cohort, Coach Young, jump in here with some questions for you, Coach. But the last one here for me before I let him turn it with you, and he'll talk about that Phoebus game, I'm sure, coming up in 7 days, is your quarterback, Saeed Williams Jr. He played some on defense last year, was your second quarterback, and he's been quietly rolling along. I mentioned earlier in the show about the receivers you guys have with Dakota Brodus, the big lanky kid. You got Keon Batts, who had 3 touchdowns last week, Julio Character in our speedster. Just speak on his growth and development in your offense, because the defense gets the headlines, but this offense is really performing at a high level, and you got to be proud of what he's doing out there.
He's doing a very decent job for us. The key for athletes in any sport is you have to be coachable, and he's really listening and being coachable to the things that our offensive coordinator Terry Shepard is wanting him to do. His quarterback coach Christian Anderson is teaching him in practice, so he's really being coachable and doing the task that we've asked him to do.
Ed, can you hear us? Go ahead.
Oh, okay, now I can hear. I couldn't hear you first. Hey, Corey, good morning to you. Congrats on another big win last night. Now,
good morning. Thank you.
Hey, now let me ask you this, though. I think Matt was telling me when you get shutouts, somebody has to buy somebody donuts. Is that true?
Typically, when we record shutouts, I made that trip to Krispy Kreme. I wish you hadn't said that, because I hadn't done that in a while. But
well, hey, come on now, Corey. Now, come on. You can't start something. You know darn well with these kids, longtime basketball coach that I am. You could give all the plays you want. You could practice all you want. But if I tell these kids we're stopping at McDonald's after a game and we roll right past McDonald's, the first thing I hear is, Coach, you said a couple of weeks ago after this game we were going to stop McDonald's. Yeah, you can't remember what I said 3 weeks ago. You can't remember what I said 3 minutes ago in the huddle. That's kids. So get them donuts out there to those youngsters, because they are.
Yes, sir.
And Matt kind of hit on a couple of things, Coach. You come into the year, you lose a great player with an injury into home. You lose some really good senior graduates, which we lose every year. And some people might think, okay, Warwick takes a step down. I kind of thought losing to home was going to really hurt you. Not so much you're going to lose games, but it'd be a little from their team. Well, you've proven everybody wrong. You are crushing people, and you're still shutting people out. And as Matt made a comment, you're scoring. And then you hit it right on the head. Well, we had some youngsters who are coming along, and they're also doing what's expected of them. So naturally, that you should be winning. And I always say this to people about teams that really win. Are they a good team, or is it a good program? Because if you're a good program, you're going to have really good years. Now, you right away with high school kids, you might have a down year or 2 years there, but usually going to be good. If you just have a good team, you'll have a 9-1 year, and then all of a sudden you're 500 the next 3 years because you don't have a good program. You have built, obviously, I would think a great program so far at Warwick, and I'm amazed as to how much you guys shut people out. You hit a lot of the questions I was going to ask you, but one thing I do need to hear from you is, who is that next group of young kids that are freshmen, sophomores, maybe a junior, who coming into this season, you weren't sure what they were going to give you, but now they've really played up to the role? Is there a couple of those kids that you can give a shout out about?
Definitely. Now, let me go back to the donuts. So we have put some other things in place to recognize the hard work and the accomplishments of our players week in and week out, not just the shutout. So trust me, Coach, we're taking care of that part.
I just want to make sure the children are getting those donuts or whatever that you're promising out there, because sometimes we coaches go crazy with our motivations and we say we're going to do this and that, and then it kind of slips our mind. Those kids
Yeah.
ain't gonna forget. When it comes to free food, those kids don't forget.
Yeah. And trust, because we put things in place for them to make sure that they're recognized for their hard work. So I'm glad you brought that up. But the second thing, we do have some guys who coming into the seasons, we weren't sure how they would respond to playing at the varsity level. I have a sophomore. Actually, I have a few guys. Cartier Carey. He's doing an excellent job as a defensive back. He has really stepped up. He played JV last year, and he played, a few varsity games, but this year he's full-time varsity, and he's doing an excellent job. We have a junior. His name is Tracy Pope. We were quite unsure about where he would fit. He played varsity and JV last year, but this year he's been playing lights out at defensive end, getting sacks and things of that nature. So he's doing an excellent job. We have a few guys who are sophomores who, they're playing excellent job. Terrius Brown, Omari Meredith, Raekwon Edlow. Those guys are, they're putting in a lot of work for us and doing a great job. So I'm quite pleased with those guys who, they may not be the quote unquote big name guys, but they are doing a great job. Another kid, we call him Juice Thornton. He's doing a great job as well. So we're quite pleased with some of those guys who coming into the season we were unsure about, but they've really proven themselves. Oh, Jason Disnu, he's another one. So we're quite pleased with those guys who have stepped up.
A few more minutes here with Warwick head football coach Corey Hairston, our guest on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. It's Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're all over the web, virginiapreps.com, Apple, Spotify, Facebook, IG, and so much more. Coach Hairston's Raiders at 9-0 on this season, getting ready to take on the Phoebus Phantoms next Saturday at Darling Stadium, Ed.
Yeah, and Coach, you're going into the Phoebus game. Everybody knows what Phoebus is. Everybody should know what Warwick is. Of course, you football coaches don't want to tip your helmets as to some things you want to do or whatever. But what, as you kind of look in the distance, and I know you're probably just getting ready to formulate what you want to do with Phoebus. What couple things does Phoebus present challenge-wise for you guys that you've really got to attack?
Well, there's a few things. Number one, the program itself. And Coach, you've been coaching a long time. Sometimes when players and sometimes even coaches, when they hear a certain name of a team that, they'll be like, oh, wow, we play whoever this week. So number one is just overcoming the name. Number two, Phoebus does a great job of running the ball well, and they have for years, and they always have a solid defense. So those are three aspects that that we are going to be prepared for, and we'll make sure that our kids are prepared for this week.
Well, I would, and listening to that, obviously, you've got to control the running game, obviously. And then, when you mentioned Phoebus too, the first thing that does come to my mind is a physical defense, that you're not going to get easy things off of them, and they're not going to make a lot of mistakes that you can just depend on getting some free penalty yards. They're going to make you earn everything. So I would imagine in a game like this, obviously, you got to cut down mistakes. And the two things I always look at in big games: line play, special teams. Okay, assess your line, not so much what going in against Phoebus, but your line play, both sides of the ball this year, and then if you would, your emphasis on special teams after that.
And I'm glad you mentioned those two because, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball for us, our offensive line and our defensive line have done a very, very stand-up job. Like I said, on both sides of the ball, I'm very, very pleased with those guys. They're kind of the unsung heroes because their names never get mentioned in the paper. They're never highlighted on highlights. But those guys, do a great job. Christian Corbin, DeJuan Skip with Jawan Rodriguez, Xavion Studwell, Big E Cowell. Those guys do a great job. TJ Short, they do an excellent job on both sides of the ball. We have a couple of those guys who go both ways, and they really do control the trenches. In order for the Saeeds and the Julios and the Keons to do the things that they do, you can't do any of them without the guys up front. And we've done it. Those guys have done a great job doing great things for us. Special teams, our special teams have really improved this season. I feel like we're light years way better than last season. So our special teams have really, really done well. I believe last night may have been the only time that our special teams did not score in any of our games. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe we've scored on special teams in every game except for last night.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm glad you brought up Christian Corbin. I'll let you jump in here in a second, Ed, because you have a lot of good linemen, but I think 53 is his number, correct?
Yes, sir.
The number of coaches that have either played you or watched you guys on film, and we interviewed him after your win over Bethel back in game 2, him and your linebacker, Isaiah Emery. And you got a great linebacking core, and your secondary's not too shabby either. But the number of coaches that have told me just how impressive he is, I mean, to me, he stacks up with as good a defensive alignment as there is coach in the area in the state.
Yeah, Christian Corbin, he's a great kid. He's one of the kids that I mentioned earlier about starting varsity since their freshman year. He's done a tremendous job. You know, the big thing about Chris is he's not only a solid football player, but he's also a very solid wrestler, and he's also a very solid track and field athlete. And he does a shot and disc. So he's a multi-sport athlete. He's coachable. He's strong. He has a very he has good balance, good low center of gravity. He's the real deal, and he's mean. So
there you go, Ed, a mean guy who wrestles. That's right up your alley, Ed.
Yeah. And what I like hearing here was that kid's playing sports year round. That's tremendous. Still getting his grades. That's Division I status. That's the kind of things you want to hear. I'm gonna lead coach with a couple of things. Number one, Corey, I got to do this because I've done it with some other veteran coaches, mostly young coaches.
Make
ready. Sure in your repertoire of offensive plays, you have the flea flicker. You have the end around, and you have 4th and inches and you're ready to throw the ball. I don't want to hear this crap up the middle, power I and whatever. Put those in your playbook and don't be afraid to use them. I learned one great Bill Stakowski there, first Colonial years ago, Matt?
No, Cox,
a veteran coach who will forget more football than I'll ever know. And he finally put the play in and he ran it and it was successful. So he finally gave me a little bit of credit. So put that in your repertoire. You're going to need it in the playoffs. And I'm going to add another problem for you. You're talking about this great line. Add the pancake in this. Start giving the best offensive lineman who gets the best pancake of the week on your trips to get the food. Stop at one of the local pancake places. I'm going to mention names because, as Matt says, they don't sponsor us, so we're not mentioning their name. Pick up an order pancake. They're cheap. The linemen will go crazy because them big boys in there with them bellies, they all like pancakes.
Oh, no. I got another one, Ed, as we let Coach go. And we thank you so much for coming on the show. Here's what I want, Coach Hairston. Ed has got a lot of free time on his hands because he's not coaching basketball this year, and the playoffs are coming up. And one of my favorite things at your football games is, and I don't know when you started this, your staff or who started it, but when you guys get a first down, and it's your whole group, and you lead the brigade with move the chains with a little first down.
Move the chains. That's right.
I want to get Ed, if you can hook him up with it, come one of your playoff games, hook him up with a Warwick shirt and hat, and he can lead your move the chains. Can he do that for us this year in the postseason?
Hey, if he comes down there on the sideline, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
You got an invitation to move the chains with Warwick in the postseason. And Region 5, he's going to be a lot of fun with Warwick and Kings Fork, defending champ Maury, Granby, Nansemond River, your old school Ed. It should be a lot of fun. So he got the invitation right there to move the chains with Coach Hairston and the Raiders.
Yeah, just like that crowd, Section 212 Old Dominion, to move the chain crowd. And plus, it'd be kind of neat to see what I look like in a Warwick football jersey or shirt. Now, Coach, I'm going to have to take one out of your closet now because, my XL days are over. I'm more 3X, 4X, so I need to be comfortable.
Well, Coach, look, I've lost a few pounds, so I might be able to take care of you.
Give me one of your old ones. There we go.
Yes, sir.
Well, Coach, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. All the best. We're looking forward to it next Saturday against the Phoebus Phantoms and what should be a great football game, celebrating two worthy championship caliber teams. And all the best to you and your squad on this postseason journey, and we'll talk down the road.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. You all take care.
You too. That's Corey Harrison doing an excellent job as the head man of the Warwick Raiders, our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger, fries, drink, and a sundae. No time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. Right now at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Are you transitioning out of the military and need a home? Call Triumph today. That's right. 80% of all Triumph realtors are former military, active duty, or military spouses. And we're female and veteran owned. Triumph Realty, making real estate dreams a reality.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us, and the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
After more than 50 years of innovation, AstroTurf still leads the way. The inventor of artificial turf does it all, right here in the USA. We engineer, test, manufacture, and install the world's most innovative fibers and turf technologies, with over 30,000 tracks and fields worldwide. AstroTurf, powered by Sport Group.
At CHKD, sports medicine is more than just treating injuries. It's a whole team approach to caring for young athletes. With experienced physicians, surgeons, trainers, and rehab specialists here when kids and teens need them most. Our experts help young athletes prevent injuries too, with advanced training and conditioning programs that keep them in the game safely. CHKD Sports Medicine, where kids are more than patients and we're more than a hospital.
got my Halloween costume for all of you out there. Groucho Marx, ladies and gents. It is Halloween, and we finish up this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. The hat's crooked. Who cares? My mustache is all messed up. My whole disguise. Let's go through what we left off with, all of you out there, and that was the power ratings before we had our two interviews with Corey Hairston of Warwick from last weekend's 757 Saturday Sports Talk, and Justin Vias, the athletic director of the Hampton Crabbers. Let's go to Class 4, Class 5, Class 6. The big matchup, Phoebus and Warwick, which we'll break down in a second with you all. Phoebus has the stranglehold no matter what happens here to get the 1 seed. Getting that 2 seed matters for Hampton tonight to beat Bethel to try to leap Smithfield. Packers still have a couple of games that will test them to a degree. They have to take on the New Kent Trojans, then the Tab Tigers. Not necessarily given automatic wins for them, but to get that 2 seed, to get you a bye. The 1 gets you a bye in a home field throughout. They're taking just 6 teams to the playoffs this year, not 8. So Denby, Tommy Reeman's Patriots should get in with that young quarterback on the rise in Kevin Parker Jr. 4-5 matchup looks to be right now Churchland and Warhill. Churchland can move the ball a bit. Had some struggles on defense last week. Warhill's got a young team, not the same group Jerome Rhodes' Lions had a year ago, but both of those programs hungry to get a postseason victory and make it on to the next round from the quarters to the semis in Class 4 Region A. What about Class 4 Region B? Oh, this to me is the best region in the state, especially the top 3 with Dinwiddie, Verona, Huguenot. Verona's got Highland Springs this week. Dinwiddie's got a record setter at quarterback in Harry Dalton, who will play running back for the Trojans of Southern California. Huguenot's got those flashy receivers in Ivion Lewis, Markel Dabney, a lot of weaponry on offense. They have really been a story this year out of Richmond in the RVA. King George was great last year. They're not a easy team this year at 6-2. They beat Hampton this year, in fact, early on after they recovered from an early season loss in the opener. Cortland at 6-2. Easterview at 5-3 could be dangerous. Even Powhatan at 4-4 is not your typical number 7 seed with a kid in Matt Henderson who's committed to Penn State. Oh, they got a big game this weekend with the Buckeyes of The Ohio State University. That's what it looks like in Region 4B. It should be a war, especially those semifinal games that will likely involve Dinwiddie, Verona, Huguenot, and mystery team, possibly King George, maybe Cortland, perhaps even Eastern View. Going to 4C. And by the way, it has been officially released by the Virginia High School League that they are cross-bracketing in Class 4 this year. So you have in the tournament 4A versus 4D, 4B versus 4C. John Champ and Tuscarora, they have the inside track to win 4C right now. Connor Solomon at Woodgrove, one of the best receivers around. Don't sell them short. Even Loudoun Valley and Loudoun County have some firepower. In fact, if you go on VirginiaPreps.com, there's a story on the offensive lineman from Loudoun County who's checking out that Penn State and Ohio State game this weekend, a 2026 prospect by the name of Carter Scruggs. He's 6'6", he's 290, he's a 4-star. So there are some quality players. Do they have the depth and enough firepower? We shall see to beat a Tuscarora, to beat a John Champ. I would lean with no as of this particular moment. What else is happening in terms of the power ratings and the picture? 4D, let's go to it. George Washington, Danville, Jefferson Forest battling for the 1 seed. I do think Jefferson Forest is the best team in that region, even if they don't get the 1 seed. I'm not selling you short over there, Mr. GW Danville and Nick Anderson, the Eagles. But I like what Jefferson Forest is doing out of that Seminole District. Sharando at 8-1, Hanley at 7-1. And oh, by the way, Sharando and Hanley are going to square off against each other. So the dust, when it settles, we'll get a better idea of who's sitting where in terms of the seeding. I would not think that Salem is going to be where they are seated at the moment. They are a live 5-6 seed at the moment. Sharando Hanley, by the way, is November 9th in the Hanley Bowl matchup in Winchester, where that game will be taking place. EC Glass, hard to believe right now that EC Glass is outside of the playoff picture, but they currently are. And they were a team that was playing in the region championship just recently. It's hard to fathom that for EC Glass. Let's go to Class 5, Region A. Green Run's got the stranglehold as the 1 seed. They're going to get it. Here's the crazy scenario that could play out, ladies and gents, as I have my Groucho Marx disguise to document this for you. If Kempsville is to beat Cox at home in the regular season finale coming up on November the 8th, a week from Friday, the same night that Moria and Granby collide in the Battle of Norfolk, the same night as the Keyshawn Davis fight, If that happens, you're going to probably have a three-way tie for the 2, 3, and 4 seeds. And through the tiebreaker scenarios, Cox, Salem, and Kempsville all at 8-2 under that situation, it would probably go to a lot draw or coin flip. That brings me back to the years of, I think, 2005, when Kempsville was left out in the 4-team playoff field in AAA Division 5, Eastern Region, because they lost that three-way tiebreak draw with Salem and Kellum. I felt so heartbroken for Jeff McGowan and his Chiefs at the time. But they'll get in this year because they have an 18 field. The drama really then becomes who's going to get those 7 and 8 seeds, because you figure Indian River is going to get one of those 3 teams in the beach in a 4-5 matchup. And you figure that the other interesting part of this is, and I'm not sure that they can hold off those other 2 beach teams, although it would be interesting to see how the points shake out with that. Deep Creek, Ocean Lakes, Bayside, Hickory, Kellum. I said last week that Bayside, Kellum was like an elimination game. Well, Kellum right now is on the outside looking unless they can win out and some teams above them drop. So they're not totally eliminated. Bayside, Ocean Lakes this week is probably a win in your end game. The winner of that game should get in the playoffs. The loser is going to have to see how things shake out. Ocean Lakes has got Green Run next week, which is not going to help them in terms of got to win and get in. Bayside's got Tallwood, and Tallwood's not totally out of it. They're below a lot of teams, but if they were to win this week and shock Salem and then go beat Bayside, they're going to put themselves in, vault themselves in at 4-6. That's a lot to ask for them. But they've been close in some games here lately with Cox and Kempsville, so not totally out of it. 5B, what's it look like? Morey's the team to beat. Unless they lose, they're getting the 1 seed. Kings Fork is ahead of Warwick for the time being, but if Warwick was to beat Phoebus, that would certainly change, no question about it. Meanwhile, 4-5, well, right now, it is looking like Nan's River Granby, and that should hold. Does Bethel have a chance to catch? Well, they'd have to win out and have Granby lose, but that's probably not enough points to jump Granby, even though Granby has been hurt by, you say, how are they 8-0, and there's a 2-loss team ahead of them and a 1-loss team, because the teams on their out-of-district schedule, the Denbys, the Lakelands, the Kicatans, have not given them a lot of bonus points, the booster points, the rider points, if you will. And that's the big issue for them right now. 5C, who is the team to beat? Right now, William Fleming's got the 1 seed on lockdown. Matoka trying to finish up. Will they have enough to jump Fleming? Well, doesn't look like it if Fleming doesn't lose. As far as Fleming's remaining schedule here to close up the shop, close up the season here under Coach Nick Leftwich, their last 2 games, Franklin County, Stanton River, they should get it done. Hard to believe Matoka could very well go 10-0 in that rugged Central District with Dinwiddie, Thomasdale, Hopewell, among others, and not get a 1 seed. All roads lead to there. Midlothian, by the way, has got Huguenot this week. Big opportunity for them if they slip. Louise is ready to jump up, as is Hermitage, Douglas Freeman, LC Bird, currently the 7 seed. And how about Patrick Henry Roanoke? Prince George under new coach Tom Hall, who won a state championship back in the day, I should say years ago, at Manchester. He's ahead of Patrick Henry Roanoke. Well, it's a tie right now, so we'll see if he can squeeze in the playoffs. Patrick Henry Roanoke last year was the 1 seed and lost to Fleming, who was an 8 seed. Could be role reversal this year. And as for 5D, not the typical year for Stonebridge and the new coach. They're currently in a 2-7 draw at the moment with Briar Woods. My pick to win that region, but I don't want to leave out what Riverbend has done here lately. Riverbend has really opened some eyes. They knocked Stafford from the ranks of unbeaten in Class 6 Region B, which we'll get to in a second. Riverbend, new head coach this year in Ed Webb. They've won back-to-back games over Colonial Forge and Stafford. They got Brook Point and Massaponax to close up. If they win both of those, they should get the 1 seed. It's there in front of them. Independence could be a dark horse in 5D. Watch out for them, RJ Windows' team, because they did beat Tuscarora this year, handed them their only loss, and they beat Briar Woods to end last year. We'll see what happens when those two collide. They could collide not once but twice in the 5D playoffs. Going up to Class 6 here, Oscar Smith is the 1 seed, unless they slip on a banana peel. Unlikely these last 2 weeks with Hickory and Western Branch. Western Branch Grassfield's the game to watch this week. Not that there's a title contender, but both trying to get in. A win, a little bit like that Ocean Lakes Bayside game, probably going to put that team in. The loser, you're in danger of missing it. Very much in danger of missing it, especially when you look at the final games for both 2 teams. Grassfield closes up at Indian River. Western Branch closes up at home against Oscar Smith. So both will be an underdog in that final game of the season. Highland Springs, they can lock down that 2 seed by beating Verona. If they don't, Glen Allen under Coach Malik Sexton, the former Churchland standout who we had on the show earlier this year, could grab it. Thomas Dale's had some injuries. Manchester, new head coach this year for them, and Coach Harrell. That's what it's looking like there. Lansdowne's a long shot, would have to get a win here, actually get 2 wins, we do believe, to get themselves in the picture for Robert Jackson's Eagles. What about 6B? It's a large region, I think 19 schools or so. Stafford's the one, despite that loss. Battlefield, though, they went out. They're the 1 seed we are projecting. They've got Patriot on deck coming up. That's going to be a tricky one. Pioneers trying to secure a home field in the first round. If they lose, it's not a gimme. You got Gainesville and Colonial Forge nipping at their heels. Some really good teams in the 6, 7, 8 lines. But when it's all said and done, I like Battlefield, and it might be a Battlefield Patriot showdown again in the postseason to determine who comes out of that region. Nothing against the Fredericksburg schools like Stafford and North Stafford and Colonial Forge, who have played exciting games, Brook Point too. But it looks like the power is in that Cedar Run with Battlefield, Patriot, and Gainesville. All 3 have good running games, and especially in Battlefield's case, a really, really strong defense to contend with. 6C, you're looking at Hayfield at the moment as the 1 seed. Lake Braddock, Fairfax, West Springfield trying to jockey up there. South County not having their typical year, but they could be dangerous in the postseason. They've made a run to a state championship before their first one when they had multiple losses. They won a championship 5 years ago. It's a good winning coaching staff. You're never counting them out of things whatsoever. Hunter Malecki leading the way for them, the ODU commit. And then we'll see what those low seeds get, because I don't think you have as much sleepers, if you will, as far as in that department for surprises to be pulled in 6C. But Hayfield's got the most firepower, no doubt about it. Lake Braddock, the reigning region champion. Do think you'll see Lake Braddock find their way back to that region, Occoquan Region 6C final. As we know, Mike Doherty's done a nice job there, and they have a really creative, innovative offense, and they get a lot of kids to the next level as well. 6D, James Madison's defense is rock solid, and Justin Count's one of the best coaches around. News this week, their running back, Mr. Nicely, who does a nice job running the ball, no pun intended. He has reopened his recruitment. He was committed to Coastal Carolina. We'll see if he draws bigger opportunities, but we shall see if that happens for him. But he's a really, really dynamic ball player in the backfield for the Warhawks. One, Dominic Nicely. I like Madison to get that 1 seed and move through this region. Washington Liberty's been an awesome story. They don't have maybe the veteran deep playoff runs in them that Madison's guys have, but it would be really cool to see if they find their way to that region championship game with an unbeaten record. They still got the Langley Showdown. Does Washington Liberty coming up, and that's going to decide that district as far as who gets the top seed there. Keep an eye on Yorktown. They're no easy out. And Westfield played Madison close in the regular season Concord District clash. They could see each other again and possibly in a semifinal game. So there you have it. Quick thoughts as we bid adieu on this episode. And I'll take the mask off so I can look a little decent here and breathe for a change. Warwick and Phoebus coming up. That is the showdown. Coach Young's got it picked 24-14 Phoebus. I don't see that many points. I think I've got it Phoebus 14-13. It's going to come down to a lot of the things that was discussed with Coach Hairston. Warwick needs to be able to throw the ball, get some time for the quarterback inside Williams to find Julio Character, Keon Batts, Dakota Brodus. Phoebus wants to establish that running game, play ball control with Davion Roberts. Both have outstanding shut-you-down defenses. Last year it was 10-2. I'd be surprised if either team got in the 20s in this matchup, given just how close they are and the defenses, how physical and tough they are. I do think special teams could swing this game. A big return, a block kick, until Phoebus gets beaten, and they haven't lost in the PD in an awful long time. It's hard to go against them, and they will be up for this game at Darling on a Saturday. Familiar spotlight. They're used to these big game moments. They played Highland Springs early in the year. Warwick needs to get an early lead, and that could take Phoebus out of its comfort zone if they have an opportunity. A couple other games we did disagree on this week. Bethel, Hampton, I've got the Bruins. Ed's got the Crabbers, 23-21. Same score for both of us. Ocean Lakes Bayside has some intrigue. We're both going Dolphins in that one. Kempsville to take care of Kellum, Salem over Tallwood, Kings Fork over Deep Creek, Indian River over Great Bridge. Ed's going Western Branch 21-20. I got the Grizzlies 20-19. I've got the 7-game lead over Ed, so I can take a couple risks, if you will, in the selections. Nansman for both of us, Menchville for both of us, Pocosin over Bruton for both of us. I've got 31-13. Ed's got it closer, folks, 28-24. I'll be stunned if the Islanders give up over 20, even though Bruton's got some receivers that can make it happen with Henderson and with Freeman for their quarterback and Ashton Bell. Both have Grafton, both have Smithfield. Ed's taking Tab 22-18. I got the Lions of War Hill 22-16. Woodside for each of us, and Norcom and Lafayette to also win on Saturday. So that's going to do it for this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. We thank you all for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Our final edition for this month of October 2024. And we'll do it again with you all in November. Saturday in December. Marching on right here. You know where to subscribe to. Like, share, and subscribe to Cova Sports TV. And have a happy Halloween trick or treat. You'll get all those Musketeers and Snickers and Milky Ways out there. And my favorite, the Kit Kats. Enjoy it, folks. Have a good one.